Hello, beautiful soul. It's Anna T. Brooks, your secret advantage coach, and welcome to episode 2 of the Celebrity Birth Chart Breakdown. So, this is really exciting. We started off last week, episode 1, Kim Kardashian, someone who I've always been really fascinated with when it comes to their astrology chart and with her astrology chart and how that all plays out. And so today we are moving on to somebody that I am equally, if not actually more so, interested in, and somebody that I've followed quite intensely and interestingly, and just put a lot of effort into studying this person over the years. I'm very, very happy to be able to dive into this birth chart breakdown. So, without further ado, let's begin. Really quick, I want to just explain if you're newer here. By the way, say hello if you're jumping on live. If you're catching the replay, say hello, let me know how you're going. And if you have any questions as well as we go along, or if you have any questions up front, feel free to drop them in. I will always attempt to try to get to all of them if I can. So before I begin, I just want to give you a quick update for anyone who's new here and who isn't aware. I use true sidereal astrology in my coaching and working with my clients, which is different to Western tropical mainstream astrology. The very short version of this is tropical astrology has changed the system to align with the seasons. They got rid of one of the signs, which is a fucus, made it 12, and then they made it very even constellations. So basically you get 3 signs per season, and it doesn't actually reflect what is going on in the physical visible sky. So they did it as an agricultural and as a kind of shift into making things easier to understand seasonally. Which is a way of looking at things, obviously. However, it is not actually reflective of the true placements of the constellations and of the planets in the sky. This is where true sidereal astrology comes in. This actually uses the actual visible placements in the sky as they are. It uses the constellations to their actual length. So some of them are much longer, for example, than 30 days. Some are much shorter. They are actually different sizes. And also, like I said, it uses the actual visible sky. So if you were to look up, get the telescope and actually look into the sky to see where the constellations and the planets are right now, they would be in a different position than what tropical or mainstream astrology is telling you they are. So for myself, for my clients, this has been a real big game changer. If, for example, for myself, I didn't align with a lot of everything that I grew up with mainstream astrology. And when I discovered true sidereal astrology, I knew why. It was because it wasn't actually reflective of who I truly am. For a lot of people, they have said that it's like going from being told who you're meant to be your whole life to finally having somebody read you for who you truly are. So that's kind of just a really quick bite-sized explanation that I want to start with. Of course, if you have more questions, you can reach out. I'm happy to point you in the direction where I'll explain this a little bit deeper. But essentially just letting you know that this is a different system that we're using. This is true sidereal astrology. And so the chart, if you've ever looked, for example, at any of these celebrities that I am deconstructing their chart, it might be different to what you've looked at yourself. That would be the reason. So let's jump into episode 2, number 2. I'm so excited for this one. It's someone I've followed for a long time and who I'm very, very curious about and who I find very fascinating in their growth and in their expansion. And that is Alex Hormozi. Now, this is another person that is very controversial, much like episode 1 with Kim. I would say that Alex as well, since he kind of came onto the scene, has been very triggering for a lot of people. There's been a lot of people that hate him, a lot of people that love him, a lot of people that don't even know him. That's fine as well. However, probably less and less people that don't know him, purely because his kind of entrance into the public space was so orchestrated, was so planned, was so meticulously grown that it's kind of infamous. And of course, you know, if you don't know who he is, that's absolutely fine. But in the coaching, development, business, marketing, in that sphere, he is a very well-known name. So let's dive into his chart, because this is something so interesting. And I want to give you a bit of context as well of where I'm coming from for this. So obviously, anytime we're diving into someone that's like a celebrity or a public figure, I can only go by what I see, right? Of what I'm aware of. I do not know Alex personally. I've never met him. I would absolutely love to, and I look forward to hopefully meeting him one day and then asking more questions. However, what I'm going with is the information that I have had visible to me. And I wanted to explain that where a lot of people would probably see a lot of his content or a lot of his really kind of pre-organized content and marketing online and form their opinions of him of that, or maybe what the media has said. Say hello, by the way, if you're jumping on. I have taken the time, especially over the last few years, to listen to a lot more of the free-flowing type of podcasts and interviews that he's done, where it's going a lot deeper, and it's there's a lot more kind of open-ended questions appearing on a lot of podcasts that many people may not really pay attention to because they're too long, that kind of thing. This is where I've gathered a lot of information because I like to look quite deeply. This is one of my gifts within my chart, that I see people in the different layers and I see quite deeply and quite personally into someone's energy and someone's construct as well. And so this is where I'm coming from. So some of the information I'm telling you and some of the information that I relate, you may not be familiar with, right? If you haven't really taken the time to listen to those longer form interviews and podcasts that he's been a part of, you may not have picked up on this, but this is where I'm coming from because I really find this fascinating, and I find this fascinating from a space of someone's growth and someone's expansion and how someone is living into their design, and so how someone is using it to their advantage, and also how they're growing through it, right? So, hello Jody, hello beautiful, how are you? Really great to have you on. Let me know if you have any questions, if there's anything. Do you know Alex? Oh, not personally, but do you know of him? Do you have any questions? Do you have any kind of thoughts or anything like that? And I can definitely get into that as well. But let's begin, because there's a few questions I've written down in the title that I'm going to kind of go through. And I want to start. So unfortunately, I was not able to find a time of birth for Alex. I would have loved this because quite honestly, his chart is so interesting. I would have loved to have been able to see where his rising fits and also the placements within the houses. That would have given me even more context, and I would have loved that. So hopefully one day, especially if I ever get to work with him, I would absolutely love that. And then I would be able to dive into that and give him really, really personalized input. But what I'm working with now is just that I have found online publicly his date of birth, the 18th of August, 1988. And so this is what I'm working with. So I have a lot of his placements in terms of where the planets are of the constellations. But again, like I said, I don't have his rising, which would have been amazing to know, but I do need the time of birth for that. And also his placements in the houses. And again, I would have needed the time for that. But we will work with what we have because this is really interesting. So first thing I want to talk about with his chart is that he has a very balanced chart. Now, I've spoken to this about this before, that there's often people, when we look at someone's chart, you might be really heavy in water elements or air elements or earth, or you might be completely missing all fire or whatever it is. It's everyone's chart is very unique, and it's interesting to me because his chart is very well balanced. He has fire, he has earth, he has water, he has air, and he even has his Saturn, one of his placements, in a fucus, which for those of you who know true Sidereal astrology uses all 13 signs, and that includes a fucus, which is the one that got cut out from mainstream astrology. It sits between Scorpio and Sagittarius. And that's very interesting because that's a whole other ball game when you're talking about a fucus. It's one of those signs that I'm so pissed that they got rid of because it's honestly, it's incredible. And when you understand it, and I'm going to talk about this, and especially in his Saturn placement, what this means, because it's fascinating. So he literally has this beautiful balance in his chart of all of these different elements, right? And so I'm going to actually start with one of the second question that I wrote down, which is why do him and Leila work as a couple? So for those of you who know, he's married. His wife is Leila Hormozi. She is the co-founder and CEO of, and she's the CEO of acquisition.com, which is the business that they run and they operate. And she is just as much of a powerhouse, if not more in many ways, as he is. She's very, very much the, where he's kind of the marketing and the face and the brand and the, all of that. She's very much the one who deals with all of the internal working and all of the day-to-day running and the business construction. and that's really interesting. I think I probably will do a chart on her or even a couples chart for them in the future because it's very interesting. But I wanted to start with this one of why do him and Leila work as a couple? And I think that this is very interesting because of how balanced he is in his chart. I haven't pulled up Leila's chart, so I'm not going to dive into that now. But he was the kind of person, Alex is the kind of person that if he had come to me and said, I'm really happy on my own, I don't really want to be in a relationship, I haven't found the right person, I'm not kind of in that, I would not be worried about him one bit. Like, you know how there's some people that you're like, you know what, this person just thrives in a relationship. They just do really well when they're in a happy, in a stable, in a loving and in a thriving relationship. He's the kind of person, looking at his chart, where I would see that he would be just as happy whether he was on his own or in a relationship. I think it's fantastic because this is why I'm going to talk about why him and Leila work so well, because he has found someone who is his person, and that's fantastic, and it's actually helped both of their businesses and their business together grow and expand even faster. Like, they are just like putting firewood onto the fire of each other, which is amazing. So for him personally, in the situation he's in, I wouldn't recommend becoming single again, because him and Leila are just absolute powerhouses together. However, if outside of this, it had been his chart, different person, and he told me that, you know what, I'm not in a relationship, I'm not looking to get into a relationship, I would not be concerned whatsoever, because his chart is so well balanced. For sometimes when it comes to people's charts and it's very unbalanced and they're missing certain elements quite a lot, it's something that they're searching for and that they're needing to fill with the people that they surround themselves with. Relationships, especially a romantic close relationship, is usually the easiest, right? If you have elements missing and your partner has them in their chart, it's a really good way to be able to work together and to kind of get that cohesiveness and make it easier for yourself. But romantic relationships are only one way. People will also do this through business partnerships, through friendships, all these kinds of things. So there's definitely lots of different ways to approach that. But like I said, if he was single, I would not be at all concerned, because he has such a balanced chart for himself. Him and Leila, the reason they work so well together, and this is not, I guess, specifically to Leila as a chart or anything like that, because again, I haven't pulled her chart up. I'm not going to make this a deep dive on that. However, with his placements, so he has his moon in Virgo, his Venus in Gemini. And what this tells me is his inner world, right? His moon sign, in terms of his nourishment, his inner world, how he sees the world, he really enjoys precision, right? He will find a lot of love in his work, which he has done, right? Virgo is very much about work, about routine, about consistency, about having that something to work towards and something to refine and something to grow. So his work brings him a lot of fulfillment. And therefore, as well, when his partner understands that and supports that, which Leila does, then he feels more supported, he feels more loved, he feels more appreciated. And this is so easy to tell. Sorry, I just got to move around here. This is so easy to see when it comes to some of the feedback and some of the negativity that he gets online about how hardcore he is and how much he works and how all of this kind of stuff, and that he gets a lot of flack for the hustle culture and the bro marketing culture and all of this. And he would not do well with someone who basically believes that that is a fault in him. Leila does not. Leila supports this. She very much herself is also in that realm and works very hard as well. And so she supports him in all of that, which is huge, because this is his internal world. This is how he feels nurtured. This is how he sees the world. If someone doesn't value this in him, if someone doesn't support him in this, it's not going to work, right? And so it's such a beautiful connection that's happened there. And the Venus in Gemini, this I understand very personally, because I have Venus in Gemini as well as a lot of other Gemini. So this is interesting. But Venus being the love language and how he's designed to give love, to receive love, to experience love, he needs to very much be in someone who intellectually stimulates him. He needs to be into someone. He needs to be in a relationship. If it's a close romantic relationship, and again, even his personal relationships, friendships, business partnerships, anyone that he's in his close inner circle, needs to be someone who intellectually stimulates him, who he can have deep and meaningful conversations with, who he can discuss details with, who he can look at things from a number of different angles with. He will not do well with somebody who basically is just very earth energy and just like, let's just do things, let's not talk about them, let's not think about them, or somebody who's just very feeling based, right? And you can hear that in a lot of his language and the way that he speaks. And it's changing a little, which is interesting. This is what I'll talk about as well. It is changing a little. However, it's very interesting to see how the way that he speaks, the way that he presents is, you can tell how much he loves to think, how much he loves to process things. He has a gift of expression. When you listen to any of his actual content that he creates, and when he's explaining things to do with business or to do with marketing, he's very much breaking down very complex things that confuse people in a lot of ways, that when you're trying to build a business, or you're trying to elevate something, or you're trying to work on your marketing, or whatever it is, there's things that you hear that confuse you, that don't seem to make sense, that seem to be like fluffy or whatever. He likes to make it very concrete. And even in personal development, even in coaching, he will explain concepts in a way that he really boils down what are the details and makes it so that it makes sense on a very basic level to everybody, rather than using these big concepts and big kind of vague descriptions that sound really cool and really spiritual and really whatever, but ultimately don't actually tell anyone anything, and they just leave confused. And this is his gift very much with his love language, that this is what how he likes to express himself, and he wants to feel that sense of intellect, that sense of being able to talk and communicate and have that relationship with his close loved one. And the fact that him and Leila actually work together probably just adds to the communication, because however they orchestrate things at home or whatever, at least at work, there's going to be a lot of obviously that going on, and they're both on the same wavelength because they're working on the same business together, essentially. The other part that I find very interesting, right? Let me know, by the way, is this making sense? Do you have any questions so far? Let me know. His Mercury, right? Okay, so here's what's interesting. So his Sun and his Mercury are both in Leo, and his South Node. So there's a lot of fire energy. And the fire energy is in his Sun, so it's in the way that he's designed to do things, in his strategy for life. It's in his Mercury, which is his communication, how he's designed to communicate. And it's in his South Node, right? So this is the gift that he comes already with, right? Our South Node is the energy, the gifts, the skills, what we've come into this world already with. We're kind of already equipped with this. We have this skill down pat. It's ours. We don't have to do anything to work for it. However, we are meant to grow through it. And I'll talk about that when I talk about the North Node. But he already has this gift, that Leo fiery energy of heart, of creativity, of passion, of me, right? Leo energy as well is very much about what do I want? How do I shine? How do I express myself? It's not that it's selfish in any way, although some people will say that if they don't understand it, but it's much more just about myself and me, right? And so with that already mastered, and already in his Sun as well, so the way he's going through life, the strategy, the way that he does things is very much, has been very self-focused for a long time of how do I grow this? How do I make this happen? And then his Mercury, his communication style as well, is he's so engaging, and he's learned this. I've heard him speak about this, that this isn't something that came to him naturally in many ways. He had to learn how to be engaging, not just for himself, but for his audience, right? For the people that are going to be purchasing from him. So, because he has very much that creative, that passionate, that big-hearted energy. So he draws people in just as a way of how he expresses himself. However, he's had to learn to channel that in a way that also comes through that it is for others, that it is for the greater good, so to speak. And this is where his North Node comes in, right? Because with his South Node being in Leo, all of these gifts that he already came with, his North Node is in Aquarius, which is on that flip side. And Aquarius is about the people. It's about the larger community. It's about the larger network. So he is literally, when I'm kind of feel like I'm answering all these questions kind of all over the place, but that's okay. So when I say like, what's his life's purpose and how is he moving through that? This is how he's moving through that. He's moving through and out and using those South Node gifts of that Leo energy already, but he's moving it into that Aquarian energy as he develops, which is where he's gone from just, him and a gym launch and running businesses and being a personal trainer and like all about him, to growing slowly into how do I impact this on a big scale? How do I impact, how do I, grow more, help more people, grow more gyms that are going to help more people. And then he sold Gym Launch and started, him and Leila started acquisition.com, and same thing. It's like, not just how is it that our business, but how do we get to impact other businesses? How do we get to help them grow? How do we get to help them expand? It's that very Aquarian energy of from me to you, to us, right? It's not just about what can I do, it's what can we do? What can we do together, right? And that's why their business just keeps growing and growing and growing, because he's literally, this is the path that he's designed to go on in this lifetime. And the more that he leans into it, the more things will develop. Whereas if he was to stay away from that and just stay in that energy of just, no, I'm going to be on my own, I'm going to do this on my own, I'm going to figure everything out on my own, I'm powerful on my own, he would get to a stage where the growth just stops because he's not actually working with that energy. So, I think that's kind of covered as well, I guess, how is it that his business has exploded so powerfully? It's because he's been very much tuning into these gifts that he has with his Leo energy, whilst at the same time growing into that Aquarian energy of taking it to the masses, taking it to more people. He's got obviously his Venus in Gemini, and so he's got that gift of writing and of speaking and of communicating. He's writing books that are absolutely going crazy. Like if you've watched his recent launch that he did on, I think it was called $100 Million Models, is his third book, I believe. And everything that he did for that in terms of the marketing. He loves writing. He loves to put his thoughts down into paper in that way. And that's one of his gifts. And it's one of the ways that it's working so well for him, because he's actually tuning into that. What I find interesting as well is, where are we? Give me 1 second. I'm going to take a breath. Let me know if you have any questions as well. Yes. Okay. This is the other one I wanted to answer. So how does he work as much as he does and maintain energy? Now, this one I find interesting, okay, because his Mars placement, which is around energy and how we're designed to use our energy, is in Pisces. And this was somewhat unexpected when I saw this in his chart. It wasn't what I would have immediately thought of. So I took a little bit more time with this. Now, a Mars in Pisces energy is, on the face of it, you would think they're designed to move a little bit slower. They're designed to move very intuitively. They're designed to move in a way where they're not rushed. It's very fluid. It's not very concrete. That's what you would kind of see on the surface. But again, I look at someone's chart in the context of their entire chart. I really kind of interweave it together. And I'm like, okay, how is he using this? Because the way that he's able to work and the capacity and the workload and the stamina to continue going and going and going, there's got to be something more going on here. So the other aspect of the Piscean energy very much is wisdom. When it's in the Mars placement of how someone's designed to use their energy, Alex is very much designed to put his energy and grow his energy through applied wisdom. And this is something that you see in bucket loads with everything that he does in terms of what he has produced in terms of his actual marketing and his content that he puts out. Like I said, when I was explaining before about how he has this ability to deconstruct very complex ideas and strategies and everything and make it very simple and very actionable and very understandable for everyone. But also, and this is where I guess some of the podcasts and the interviews that I've listened to him where he's really kind of almost being coached by people and just going deeper and revealing a bit more of his internal workings and what's going on, you really see over the last few years, so since he came onto the scene and was very much the hard-nosed bro marketing, hustle, like just do more, work harder type mentality, he's very much grown through that, right? He's seen how that worked. He's seen what's worked. He's seen how that's elevated him. However, he has then grown on this, and there's been this wisdom that's come from it. And it's almost as if this is what has sustained him, right? Because he took everything that he learned from Gym Launch, his first company that he grew and sold. He had the wisdom that he's gained from that, and he took that into the new business. And so whilst people might think like, well, that doesn't, like how did he just work so hard into growing this huge brand and this huge everything when he hadn't, it's working against his energy? It actually wasn't, because he had already worked on that wisdom through his previous business. And from the little bits that I have picked up on from podcasts and from different interviews, that business did really, really drain him in many ways, right? Because he was kind of in that phase of having to acquire the wisdom, and he was working against his own design there. But the joy of it when he got through it was that he had gained that wisdom. And now moving forward into any other business ventures as he continued, he was able to take that wisdom, apply it, and work with it. So he knew now what's a waste of time. What's the stuff that doesn't actually move the needle forward? What's the things that I'm doing just to fill time that isn't necessary? Where am I getting distracted where I need to focus? He took all of this wisdom and he was able to streamline processes a lot more, so that now that he's working with that energy of that wisdom, he's able to work at such a higher capacity, if that makes sense. So I thought that was very interesting, because that was one that threw me for a moment. And again, I'd be very curious. I'd love if I ever got to find out his time of birth to actually see the house placements of all of this, of like where this really, really shows up. But yes, very, very interesting. So I'm just having a look over the questions if there's anything that I feel like I've missed that's important. Oh yeah, there was one more I wanted to finish on, and this one I found interesting as well. So his Chiron, I don't know that I don't always speak about the Chiron placement, but I found it interesting here because it's also his Venus placement, right? So we talked about how it's kind of his love language communication. Chiron is the wounded healer, right? It's the wound, the very, very personal, deep wound that we come here with, that we never really heal, so to speak. We transmute it. And we use it as our power. We work through it, and we therefore are able to be kind of like a walking advertisement for how to, if this isn't something you can just heal, how do you actually work with this? How do you live with this? And how do you actually use this to your advantage, right? And his Chiron placement is also in Gemini. And this is, to me, this was just like, well, of course, because you look at his entire public image, his public figure, how he came onto the scene. He got so much hate from a very, very, from the very start. So much love as well, but so much hate for how he was coming across, how, what he was wearing, what he was, his nose tape, his shirts, the fact that he always wears just gym stuff, all this kind of thing. He got so much, right? And that is that Gemini, right? It's people, it's talk, it's gossip, it's being talked about, being gossiped about, being top of mind, people whispering, but in this case, not even whispering, right? People just flat out talking about you and all of their opinions on you and everything like that, which happens so much, obviously, in the media space. That's part and parcel of it. But he absolutely has learned to work with it, right? He has learned how to transmute it into, and I think one of my favorite things that he says, and I've heard him say this on a lot of podcasts, and it really resonates with me as well. And I think that's that Venus in Gemini that I'm seeing the correlation with us. He always says, when someone doesn't like something about you and they're being very loud about it, and they're, jumping on the comments or whatever and saying, oh, can't believe he said this is so shit, this is, horrible, and blah, blah, blah. All that they're really saying, like, it's nothing about you. all that they're saying is you're doing things in a way that I would not prefer. That just like, oof, I felt that, right? Because as a Venus in Gemini as well, and so I relate to this, I feel it. He internally will take on things a lot more than he maybe shows, and he will see a lot of things, right? He'll be aware of a lot of things that go on that he might try and brush under the rug or pretend he's not seeing because it's not relevant and it's not important, but he'll still see it. And this kind of reframe is so powerful for anyone with this placement, because it's like, it's just saying that this isn't about me. You hating me, you hating the way I do things, you telling me I'm a bad person or a bad human being because I do things this way or I see things this way, actually has nothing to do with me. All you're saying is you're doing things in a way that I would not prefer. And that's fine, because guess what? You don't have to do things the way I do them, right? If this doesn't align with you, don't do it this way. That's okay. I'm still going to do it my way, but it's just something that you would, I'm doing things in a way that you would not prefer. That's it. And that reframe, so powerful, that just kind of encapsulates, I think, that he's really, without obviously, well, as far as I know, understanding his astrology, he's owned this, he's completely understood this, and he's really, he's really transmuted it and developed it to the point where he's like, okay, I'm going to trigger people. I'm going to upset people. People are going to take my words and spin them around. People are going to take my words and out of context, and people are going to do this and people are going to do that. Okay, that's a given. This is my reframe for it, right? When someone hates something, when someone's disagreeing with it, when someone's calling me a bad human for whatever it is, I'm just doing things in a way they would not prefer. That's their thing. That's cool. Like, you don't have to love everything I do. So I wanted to end on that because I thought that was a really, really powerful awareness that I found when looking through his chart. So that's where I'm going to finish it up. Very curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know, drop it into the comments. How are you feeling? Are you seeing some of this? Do you have some similar placements in any of these areas as well? And of course, let me know if you have any suggestions or anyone that you would really love me to do a chart breakdown. And if it's someone that I'm familiar enough with that I feel like I can give it the context and the depth that it really deserves, I will absolutely do it. So pop any suggestions below, let me know. I think I'm going to have something special coming up for next month, possibly going into Valentine's Day month. So now that I'm chatting about all of these charts about a single person, but the single people that are in relationships, might be something there to do. So we will see. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let me know your thoughts. Let me know any questions you have. I will check back even if you're watching the replay. And I will see you next week for the next celebrity birth chart breakdown.